Hey, good morning, everybody. I hope this message finds you well on this, at least here in California, a bit of a rainy Sunday. Um, hey, if you've got a preschool or an elementary aged kids at home, listen up because this is exactly for you. Being that we're now 2 weeks into the shelter in place, I actually am very, very glad that I could ask Leah Rosenthal-Kambic to join us on this talk this morning to share her thoughts and hacks for getting us through this time with our kids at home while we attempt to work and teach and find some normalcy in our daily lives. Leah is uniquely qualified to talk to us about this, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. And I'll give you a little bit more about her background, but let me bring Leah on right now. Leah, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Good morning.
Good morning and welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. Well, I was just saying that you're uniquely qualified to talk to us about this topic of how to stay sane and managing all these different moving pieces in our daily lives, especially when we have kids at home. And I want to just introduce you for a moment longer so people know exactly why it is that you're so uniquely qualified and why you're here this morning. So, Leah is an early childhood educator. She herself is a mom, an active member of her community, and she's an owner of Kid Time, which is a well known preschool and after school care in Walnut Creek and Pleasant Hill, where on a daily basis, they would usually take care of about 145 kids. So, Leah is very uniquely qualified to speak about managing the chaos that we might otherwise be experiencing now. She's got a BA in social welfare from Cal. She employs 30 staff, has a very busy school, and has a lot of moving parts in her life. So I'm excited to welcome her again this morning to this conversation of just calming everything down and finding some normalcy in our daily lives. So, Leah, thanks for being here again.
Welcome.
Well, I guess a good place to start is, we've all have kids at home, or at least those of us that are watching, especially younger kids. I mean, what advice would you give parents at this time when we're being parents and we're trying to work and we're also now forced to teach and manage all of that? What can we do better?
Well, first off, I want to say that I, like all of you, am in the same boat. I have my 8-year-old at home and I am continuing to work. And dad is at home, working from home as well, trying to navigate all of us in the four walls. So it is a work in progress. But I do definitely have some thoughts. The first that really just was kind of a slap in the face when we all were sent home is, I think we all went through a period of at least a week where we were all in shock. And I don't mean to make light of the situation in any way, but it is shocking and jarring to be told, go home. By the way, your kids are home. By the way, we don't know for how long. And I think a big piece of everybody's stress is that unknown piece. So the first thing I really want to say to everyone is, remember that it's temporary. This will not be forever. But we do need to find a new normal in today and in the next month to 2 months. And we need to really be very flexible. One thing that I found interesting in this whole process is that the people that I know that are the least worried and stressed right now are my fellow preschool teachers, because we're used to a high level of chaos. We're used to a lot of activity, a lot of noise in the background. We're used to kind of having to navigate and problem solve all the time. And now we're taking those 145 kids and sending them home and telling you all to do that while you do your job. So I think not panicking is really key. We saw that in the toilet paper debacle. Everyone who panicked ran out and made it impossible for other people to have just normal things that we need in life. So taking that moment to kind of take a breath and say, okay, what is different now? For most people, a big piece that's different is they're no longer commuting. So I know in my house, my son hears me say, hurry up and we're late, more than he hears me say almost anything else. And in the last 2 weeks, that has completely gone away. So there are some sort of silver linings to this whole thing. And I think if we can find a way as parents to lean into the small things that we just don't normally have time for, um, I think that's a much more positive way of dealing with the lack of control that we all feel. And ultimately, where most parents that I'm talking to are struggling is with that lack of control. And what
Hmm.
tends to happen with children when there's a lack of control is they power struggle. So now we have kids that are off routine, feeling lost, picking up on their parents' anxieties, and we're all at each other's throats. And we're all within four walls. So I think there needs to be a complete shift in the way we view our days. I used to have a pretty steady routine, in the mornings and what happens. And to some degree, I think, and we'll talk about routine in a minute, but we really need um, some level of a routine for the kids, but it also can be a little more relaxed than what we're used to. We're not going to activities every day after school. We're not picking them up from childcare and going to the next place. We're all where we are. So yeah, I think it's really looking at what can I do differently now that I'm not in a rush. I can make breakfast every day. That's a thing I never do. You
Mm.
know, this is something that I can teach my son to help me and learn how to make scrambled eggs. So he is getting some practical life skills while he's at home.
These are really, really good insights and reminders that we should all focus on the most important things in our lives that we sometimes forget just because we're running around, we're busy, and we're playing catch up most of the time.
Mhm.
Um, so thanks for mentioning that. And I think that it's really important to hear from other people and other parents, and especially from someone like yourself who not only has an education in this area, but on a daily basis manages a lot of kids and a lot of moving parts, is that we just need to give ourselves a little bit of a break. I know you've mentioned that in some of the videos that you're now posting on YouTube. And I want to get back to that, but I want to pick up on something you just mentioned a moment ago, which is that our routines are shifting. Kids are sort of falling into a bit of chaos when they're picking up on our anxieties. I think that's what you said. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because routines is one of those things that I think kids really need, and it's really hard to find right now. So, how do we do it?
Absolutely. Well, and I will caveat that I'm still trying to figure mine out. So I'm not sitting here with all the answers or presuming to have those answers. But I can tell you that I do believe strongly that all people need some sort of a routine. I don't think it's valuable to schedule your day at home with your kids every half an hour. You've got something new to do, and it's boom, 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 because there is a lot of um, the devil's in the details. You lose that exploration time. And what I've noticed, a lot of our parents are expressing, okay, I've got to get through a conference call. So how am I going to keep my kid busy for an hour or 45 minutes? And I think that's a real question. But what I've been telling people right out the gate is give yourself some grace and assume you're only going to be about 60% as productive as you typically are. And you may pick up a little bit more here and there. Maybe you can work early in the morning or later in the evening or
Mm.
at quieter times. But everyone around you is in the same boat. So I think just releasing that pressure of you have to be 100% every day, because you've all been given an entire second job to do. And in reality, parenting and teaching your child are two different things. So really, you have three jobs now. So, I think having a very basic routine, and I suggest you basically base it around meals. Every morning we'll have breakfast from this time to this time, then we'll have a snack, we'll have lunch, and we'll have a rest time, and we'll have an afternoon snack. And in between those times, that's where, you can set up the activities and the things for the kids to get into, where you say, okay, we've spent some time eating, preparing food together. Now we're going to separate while I go do my call and you go do this or that. And then we reconnoiter back in the kitchen for the next meal, rather than this kind of constant, from 10 to 10:30, we're doing this, and 10:30 to 11, we're
Mm.
doing that. I'm really basing that off of how we run our schools. Our preschool programs are unique in that we do not have a lot of time constraints in our morning. We try to set
Mm.
up our day where we've got a good 90-minute period where kids can do several different things and be a little more child led. I think when we get into these really tight schedules, we find ourselves in the weeds, chasing after our kids, making sure that they're, on schedule and on time. And really, this is a unique moment in our society where we don't really have to do that. So I can use my family as an example. And my son's a little older. He's in second grade. So he does not have a lot that he's been sent home to do for school. And for a few days, we did the color coded. Every hour, he had a different thing to do.
Mm.
And his dad just basically was policing him all day long. And he wasn't able to focus on his work because he was constantly getting up and going to the other room and making sure Griffin was on task. So we tried something different, and we gave him basically 5 areas: reading, I think it was writing, math work, PE, and creative time. And we said, okay, so within the time frame of our meals that we've scheduled, and in our house, screen time is a big deal. So we scheduled in his screen time as well. In between all of those times, it's on him to figure out how he wants to use that time and get all of his 5 areas done. And we've found that that's been a lot more successful for him and for us because we're not constantly on him and checking the clock. In fact, he even said to me yesterday, he said something about, well, I don't have to do this today because it's Saturday. And we kind of all went, oh, that's right. It's the weekend. And it sort of all runs together now and no one knows what day it is anymore.
Right.
But I think having the very basic amount of structure without it being too, hard and fast. What we're really wanting our kids to be doing is to self-lead. So if we're giving them several things in a 90-minute period, if it's preschoolers, you can have Play-Doh on the table. You can have a sensory bin with some water and things to play with in the backyard. You can have bring out a bunch of books and set them up so it looks inviting and it's a little different, and they can move through their day. It cuts back on the power struggles, and because they're not constantly being controlled. And it also allows you to kind of just peek in and check and say, how are you doing? Is there more you need? No, you're satisfied and happy? Great. And on the flip side of that, when we're, just in our normal day-to-day, if we're on a conference call and the dog is barking and the kid is asking for more milk and all these things are happening, just let it go. Just relax. It's okay. Everyone is in the same boat. I came down to school to do this call because I knew it would just be chaos, and I only have one child, but I knew the dog would bark and the phone would ring and all those things would happen. So, like I said, I think it's really just a work in progress. I think having some form of we know what comes next really gives kids a sense of normalcy and cuts down on their anxiety. And I'll revisit the point that even if we're all facing it, we're all walking around anxious. There's no way around that. That is the truth. But if we can focus a little of our extra energy on the things that we can now do that we couldn't do before, like make breakfast in the morning, and enjoy those times with our children, they feed off of that energy instead of just the anxiety. So I think anywhere, we're always telling our parents, give your kids choices. If you have several options of things for them to do, it's much better than saying this is the one thing you can do right now, because what are they going to tell you? I don't want to do that. I'm bored. That's boring. But here's several options you can do, and we'll set a timer and I'll come check back in with you in a little while, and hopefully we can all go about maybe the next half an hour to an hour of our day.
That's an excellent point. So as you were talking, I was just thinking about our kids, and just this morning, it's like, please do this. And the first response is no.
And it's
So
hard
like,
now. We don't have a plan. We don't have a reason.
right,
We can't say, well, we'll be late for school
that's
if
right.
you don't do that. It's
That's
like,
right.
well, all
That's
right.
right.
And that might be a moment to say, well, when would you think would be a better time to do that?
Mm.
Let's give them a little empowerment in how their day goes, a little control. Now, that's not to say with your 2-year-old, you want to say, hey, run the show. What are we doing today? You want to have some forethought, of course. But with our older children especially, this is an opportunity for us to let them rise to the occasion and to feel empowered and to feel like, I'm not just being dragged around in this life. I'm a part of this household, and I'm vital and I'm important. And,
Mm.
encouraging new chores and things, and things that they haven't been a part of before because we're in a rush. I know a lot of the things that I do at home, I do on my own because it's faster. And now that we're home dirtying up the house every day, there's a lot more cleaning and organizing to be done. And Griffin is actually, I feel like he's enjoyed some of that time because it feels like we're doing family things, even if to me it's a chore. We play some music and we clean out some drawers, and it feels like a little more of
Hmm.
a little normal.
That's a really refreshing perspective. And again, it's something that we're probably all doing anyways, but we might not be paying attention and seeing it for what it really is.
Definitely.
I'm really glad you put some spotlight on this, because now that I just think back over the last few days, I think you're absolutely right in that just doing things together, um, it's meaningful that we don't usually get a chance to do, because we generally clean up after kids are in bed or before they wake up. We prepare meals. And so having a chance to do those things together, I think adds to the parenting aspect. And you brought this up earlier when you said that we have 3 jobs now. So parenting, teaching, and what was the third?
Our actual jobs.
Actual job.
Yes.
And as you were just talking, I think that we get to be better parents if we give ourselves a little bit of a break and embrace the kids doing this with us. They get to rise to the occasion and feel like they're a part of this whole process, which is phenomenal. Um, if you don't mind, I want to shift gears. Talk to us a little bit about how do we do the teaching part better? Because that's one thing that I know is providing a lot of stress for a lot of our friends that have young kids at home. And there's so many different methodologies based upon which school the kids are in, and whether it's um, a little bit of instruction from the school and then a lot of homework. Others have more instruction, but it seems like no matter what the methodology, every parent is struggling
We're
with
all
the teaching
feeling it.
part. Yeah.
Everyone is struggling. I think that's the first thing to remember, is that no matter how pretty your neighbor's Instagram pictures look, they are struggling just as much as you are. They took the picture of the one moment that everything was smooth,
Right.
and probably chaos the second before that and a second after that photo was shot. So definitely, so there's that. I think, we're talking about two different things here when we're talking about teaching our kids at home, preschool versus older children. Fortunately, a lot of the older children are being given opportunities for distance learning and are able to log on to different apps and do things that their teachers have set up. And it seems the first week nobody had anything, and the second week it seems like a lot more people are now having some more established schoolwork for their elementary schoolers. But I think it's really important to remember that children of both age groups learn through play. And free exploration of their environment is absolutely key. One of the reasons that we exist at Kid Time is because we are all about learning through play, hands on. So, I would never tell parents to go home and let's start stressing out about learning letters before kindergarten. All the kids that are going into kindergarten at the same in this next school year are all in the same boat. They haven't quite finished their pre-K year. We're trying to send things out via YouTube for them to do and practice. But the main thing that really we want them to leave preschool with are social skills. So
Hmm.
being able to exist within a group, because your group has changed and now your group isn't 16 other 3-year-olds, it's your family.
Hmm.
How do you exist within that group? And so I think the teaching at home needs to be a lot more focused on practical life skills, real life. What are we doing? What are we dealing with here? One of my very good friends has 2 little ones, a baby and a 2-year-old, and she just moved. So, in the middle of all of this, she's unpacking. So this is a unique moment where she can give her child boxes to climb in, and we're not going to pretend that he's going to help unpack, but she can say that. She can tell him he can help, and here's how you can help, and you can pop all the bubble wrap, and you
Mm.
know, incorporating them into the things that need to get done in your home that you are doing, versus this is your sit down, honed in learning time. Preschoolers need to move. Our preschoolers, we've been encouraging our parents to get them outside. I don't care if you have a big backyard or you have a little patio, you can put a bucket of water out there with some soap suds and some shaving cream, and you can let them do some sensory activity and stimulate their brain very, very easily, and not really with too much mess. But really, what we find the most meaningful moments for children learning at preschool are what goes on when they're in the sandbox and they're digging and they're sorting and they're sifting, and there's wet sand and there's dry sand, and they're feeling all of these different things, and it's
Right.
stimulating all of the synapses in their brain. That is what they need to be doing. That is more important than anything else. Put them in the bathtub with some bathtub paints, and let them go to town. One of the things that we say a lot to parents at my preschools is that adults have childhood amnesia. Most of us have forgotten what it's like to have the whimsy of childhood, and that you can just on a Tuesday now wake up and put on a blue clown wig and do your day that way, and completely throw your child off and make them giggle. This is something that we really need to lean into, you guys, because it's going to go away. I mean, we're all sort of, everybody's baking and doing crafts, and this is so wonderful. But and hopefully we don't lose it all. But when life gets back to normal, I hope we can kind of grab onto some of this
Mm.
whimsical stuff. I loved seeing your post the other day, Roman, of the tent in your backyard, and
Hmm.
you're sitting in an Adirondack chair next to the kids, and they're playing. And any type of environmental change is new and interesting for them. So I think that's really of value, just kind of switching up, and remembering back. I mean, were you a fort kid? Were you a kid that was always in the sandbox? What were the things that just really made you tick as a child? And try to bring some of that fun stuff to their normal day. They will still learn. They will survive this. It's a short period of time, and your children are bright and interesting and smart like you are. So they're asking questions.
Mm.
Um, and actually, that kind of leads me to another point of kind of managing the anxiety. I think it's really important that we're honest with our children, and
Mm.
that we tell them if we're nervous or uncomfortable with something. Yeah, this is a really weird time. And I've been telling my son that regularly. And, now he blames everything on, oh, is this because of coronavirus, mom? Well, no, you're off screens because it's off screen time now. Um,
Mm.
but, it is okay for us to, and it's necessary in times like these, to name our feelings, to help our children to name their feelings, and to validate them, because we all feel a little lost. I've gone from absolute bliss of, wow, we're having this lovely family Monopoly game, and there's not a time the care in the world right now in this moment, to utter dread. How am I
Mm.
going to pay my staff? How are we going to keep the doors open? And within an hour. So I think we all need to kind of settle into, like I said before, this mindset change, and appreciate that all of our feelings are okay, and that even if we feel really weak and lost right now, we are not alone. Everyone is feeling this way. It's just not having control and not being able to plan is really, really tough for people.
I hope people are sitting and watching, writing notes, and taking everything down, because these are wonderful, wonderful reminders. And as I'm listening to you, I'm imagining, just not imagining, thinking back to even the last couple of days, and then imagining how we should do things a little differently. But it sounds like we just need, as parents, to slow down and to really remember what it's like for kids. And it's true, a big part of our normal days, they're not with us.
Hmm.
They're at school or daycare or preschool, and somebody else is helping create those experiential moments for them. And so we just have them on the weekends, and we get to do that when it's kind of fun. And then we go back to our routines, and we haven't really, or at least most of us haven't been in this place where we're doing that 7 days a week. And all these days are sort of running into one another.
Absolutely, they sure are.
Um, yeah.
I
It's
definitely
like,
there's a lot to be said for that, and I think children by nature have very little control over their lives, so they're a lot more
mhm,
used to this than we are.
mhm,
They're used to being dragged around. For them, this is feeling a lot more free. Whereas in our minds, we're a lot more chaotic because we're trying to kind of settle and figure out how we need to set up our days. But I think, it's really important that we remember, this is something I say all the time to parents, is that boundaries make children feel safe. Boundaries
mhm,
make us feel safe. Personally, I felt a lot more safe and cared for. I think it was one night last week when I heard Gavin Newsom saying, okay, the whole state, we're all on shelter in place now. This is what the whole state is doing. This is the rule. Here we go. And I said, okay, I've got some boundaries. I've got some structure. This is what it is. It's not, well, maybe tomorrow it will change. So, kind of celebrating those moments when we do actually can make a plan for the next little while. But recognize that while you're, incorporating this whimsical time and kind of relaxing your schedule a little bit, that children still do need boundaries, and we still need to tell them no, and we still need to give them choices. And if they won't choose, we may need to choose for them, because that is where the power struggles really come in, where they're
mhm,
not going to cooperate and they are going to fight you, especially if they feel like you're anxious, you're off your game. That's when they kind of come at us at our weakest moment. They smell blood in the water. So I think just kind of taking those beats, and even if you're feeling that way, just say to
mm,
your children, I'll be honest with you. I'm feeling a little upset right now. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little frustrated. I'm going to take a few minutes, take some breaths, and then maybe we can find something to do that would make us both feel happy. Um, and I'm not going to say that this isn't a time where you can rely on your screens if you need to. I mean,
mm,
screen time is a big deal for these kids, and being away from screens all day at school, they don't miss them. But when you're home and that's all they're focused on, it can be really tricky to keep that minimal. But I think we also need to be a little relaxed with ourselves as well. And I will throw myself under the bus and use the example of, I don't think there has been a day in the last 2 weeks that I have not had an adult beverage. Not one day. I'm certain every single day in the last 2 weeks I've imbibed in some cocktails at the end of the day.
mm,
Um, and why shouldn't my son be able to
mm,
have a little relax, a little release? If we're all just driving each other crazy, okay, you can, go play a video game for a little while, or go FaceTime with your friend, or do a Zoom chat, and we can all kind of go to our separate corners. The family time, I think, can be a little tricky because we see, again, I mean, social media is our best friend and our worst enemy. We see all of these wonderful things that our neighbors are doing and our friends are doing, and we feel like, well, we're not doing enough of that. And in real life, sometimes you all just need to acknowledge, hey, we're all used to having space from each other, and we don't have that right now. So how can we create that? My son took about an hour-long bath last night, and we all just said, that's fine. Take your time, enjoy it. We're enjoying the quiet, and he's blissed out in the tub, and life is good. So just kind of got to find our coping ways.
good reminders. Taking notes. An hour-long bathtub with an adult beverage.
I'm glad
Um,
that's your takeaway.
right. Leah, there's something that you had mentioned earlier, and that is, we work better together as a community. There's a saying, it takes a village, whether it's to raise one kid or if you've got more than one at home. But I feel like right now we're at a place and time when it really does take a community, when we're so disconnected, we're in our own homes. And you just mentioned having these Zoom chats for kids or interaction with their friends. And for us, can you talk a little bit about what we can do as a community to get together and go through this in the best way possible and bring our kids along?
Sure. I'm very fortunate. My Kid Time community is amazing, and they're all so connected and wonderful. I think it's been interesting because our schools have remained open, so we're still available to serve people with essential jobs. So, but we've only had, max maybe 4 or 5 kids a day,
Mm.
and some days zero, just depending upon the day. But our teachers have been working round the clock to make videos for the kids and read them stories and do circle times and silly things that some of them are literally just like saying hi, checking on our pets at school, that kind of thing. And I think that's just providing the kids again with that little bit of sense of normalcy. Like
Mm.
when they see the video and they realize, well, all my friends aren't at school. It's not just me that's stuck at home. Everyone is in the same boat. Um, it's a unique opportunity for people that are a little bit more introverted to reach out. Our schools tend to have a lot of pretty social people, and we have a lot of different, you know, after hours activities for families to come and meet each other. So we're very encouraging of that. But there's always the folks that are a little nervous and don't like small talk and feel maybe a little more uncomfortable with play dates and things like that. And I made the suggestion in one of our videos that this is a great opportunity to be able to have play dates and avoid the small talk and standing in someone else's house and not knowing, should I stay or should I go, and should I sit down, or what's happening, and all of those little inner dialogues that go on. So I think we've been very encouraging of people getting together online and doing Zoom chats and doing FaceTime conversations. One of our moms posted the other day a video of her little boy FaceTiming with his buddy,
Mm.
and she said, "We're going on hour number 2." And I mean, that is 2 hours of solid. This kid is busy, and he was playing, and his friend was at his house playing, and they were absolutely interacting with one another. So they still had this social. I can tell you from listening to my son's chats on his video games with his friends, he's still bickering and arguing with his friends like usual over how did that game go and whatever. Um, and and I also want to mention, I love that you're doing these topics, because when it comes to kind of rallying a community, we're all now at home. So now everyone in their respective homes, presumably there's usually sort of a leader in the house, right? There's somebody that kind of plans your schedule. It's usually mom or dad usually kind of takes the lead.
Mm.
So I think, all of us that have opportunities to provide leadership to, whether it's our family, our groups of friends that we're Zoom chatting with, our coworkers, it's time for us to all step up to the plate and really let people know that we're here to support each other, because we are truly all in this together. And if we don't all comply, we will all pay the price and we will all pay the consequences. Um, so I can't stress enough the importance of reaching out of your comfort zone, and really I think having these online ways of getting together. I mean, I can sit and chat with you in my pajamas, and all I need to show you is this much of me, and then our kids can play. And then when I see you at the next Kid Time event, I'll know who you are, and we have some familiarity, and we can laugh about the things our kids were doing on that call that day. So I think it's it's a macro problem, and we can handle it in a micro way.
Mm.
I think everyone is looking for leadership, and a lot of us are kind of finding ourselves stepping up to the plate. And it's a little off topic, but I wanted to thank you, because you were very inspiring to me. And you know what? Somebody kind of has to stand up and say, "Hey guys, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. It's temporary. We're going to get through this together." And when we're on the other side, we're all going to say, "Remember that time when we were home for a while? Remember when we built that fort?
Right.
Hopefully, we'll find time to build it again."
It's important to look at the positives, absolutely. And this will end, and we should find the silver linings in everything that we have, no matter how hard it might seem. There's always going to be a silver lining, and this is definitely one where we can spend more time with our kids. Thanks for the reminder. You've mentioned doing things that connect the community. You've mentioned stepping outside of your comfort zone. How are you guys connecting with your families and with the kids and staying engaged? And what can people watching this now or later when this goes online, what can they do better to connect with their communities and get their kids engaged?
Sure. I would say in the last 2 weeks, it's sort of changed day to day. We've kind of rolled out more things and tried different things. We, like I mentioned before, we are remaining open. So we've been communicating heavily with our families about, what that looks like, and who can come and what the parameters are there. Um, we started a YouTube channel right away when we knew we were going to be all at home, just to provide some content for parents to keep their kids busy, and for us to be able to connect with the kids. My Kid Time South location started doing daily circle times over Zoom, and
Hmm.
it's all a work in progress. They've tried, and we've done them here at my location now. We're all just sort of stealing each other's ideas left and right. Um, but we're finding ways that work better than others. And I think, there again, there's this piece of just sort of not worrying about, um, you know, is it going to go well? You're not going to do a real circle time where the kids are all engaged and listening and all focused at the same time. You've got 3 boxes where the kids are hiding behind mom, and 2 boxes where the kids just want to show you all their toys. And, but the bottom line is we're connecting with them, and we're telling the kids that we miss them, and
Hmm.
that they're important to us and they matter to us. So, and that is in turn for the parents as well. We've just really, as a staff, been trying to provide as much support to our families as possible, because we know, and I will say it, having 80 kids is easier than having 2 or 3 kids. Absolutely 100% true, because you have a routine, you have all these staff, they play
Hmm.
with each other, and the fewer kids you have, the more they're relying on you to kind of keep them busy. So we've just really been anything and everything that comes up, any suggestion that parents reach out and say, we like this. We've done a bunch of make and takes and left them outside the school.
Hmm.
We did a circle time about doing some planting. And so everybody got a little bag with, things they would need to do a planting project at home. And it's been pretty neat to watch the community kind of participate. And we've gotten lots of videos back of like reaction videos of all the kids watching, Miss Erin read a story up on the big TV. And it's
Hmm.
a really, really cool thing. So, I think just kind of keeping those lines of communication open and encouraging people to, this can be a very, very lonely time if we're not careful. And, reaching out to each
Hmm.
other it's the only way to get through and to feel like we're still humans, and we are social beings, and we do need to interact with people besides our family. So do our family members, so making sure we're carving out time for each of us to have our own space in a bedroom or something, to go FaceTime with a friend, or send a message.
Hmm.
um, yeah, like I said, it's a work in progress. Every day we think of something new to try, and some things may not work as well online than they do in person. But we're going to try everything, because we want to keep those connections going.
Well, thank you for doing that, Leah. This is wonderful to have you on. And as we're getting ready to wrap up, you'd mentioned that one of your locations is open and for families who are in essential work or
Hmm.
performing essential work. Um, do you want to talk a little bit about that? If folks are in your area who need a resource, are you open and are you taking on new students at this time?
Well, unfortunately, the way that what they're allowing doesn't really allow for that. But I would
Mm.
definitely say that there are a lot of programs in all around the Bay Area that are still open for essential workers. One of the parameters they've put on it is that you really need to have the same population coming daily.
Mm.
So you have the same group of kids. Maybe one won't be here Tuesday, but they're here Wednesday. But it's the same children and the same teachers. And you know, obviously to not be mixing all of the
Mhm.
terms. But I know there are a lot of programs that are open, and some programs that kind of closed in a hurry may be reopening for this purpose, because licensing, community care licensing is allowing that. And they are allowing waivers so that, for example, our aftercare location needed to close because the building that it's housed in closed down.
Mm.
So we were able to get a waiver for those kids, the older siblings and enrolled children, to come to our preschool instead. So there are some allowances. And if you're really up a creek and, you're a doctor, you're a nurse, I would encourage you to reach out to your community and see who's open and who is serving those kids, because there are more precautions that we need to take right now, obviously. But we also want to make sure people can go to work who absolutely have to keep us all safe.
Thank you for that. And for those of us who are able to stay home with our kids, I just want to bring on, this is the Kid Time YouTube channel that I know you just started, and this is where you're posting videos. I see a new video posted every other day or so. And if, for those of you watching, if you want something engaging for your kids and little ones staying at home, check out Kid Time on YouTube. And Leah, is it okay if can folks reach out to you if they have questions following this talk?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can you email me
Would
anytime?
would you mind if I shared your email?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
All right. So that's going to start going across the bottom. So if you've got questions, this has been incredibly informative. I was just keeping notes on everything that you've mentioned, and I'll just go from very quickly top to bottom. But finding a routine you mentioned, that was so important, and I think we all need it. Planning those routines around meals. What a brilliant suggestion. We're going to start doing that. And then letting kids self-lead, giving kids options, especially during those power struggles. Learning through play and doing hands-on projects, which is something that I think a lot of us as parents and adults have forgotten to do. And keeping things interesting, and that change is good for kids. Being honest with our kids, naming our feelings, setting boundaries, but also letting them break those boundaries sometimes if it means hanging out on their tablets a little longer to talk to their friends and doing those virtual play dates. So this has been incredibly, incredibly informative and very thoughtful. I feel better. Most
I'm
people
glad.
watching are as well. Is there anything else that you'd want to kind of leave us with? Any final thoughts?
I guess, I, my final thought would probably be, we can't live in our anxiety 100% of the time. We have to acknowledge it. We have to hear it, listen to the voices, and then put it to the side. And one of the ways that I found that is the best way is in this idea of being in the moment and being present and being mindful. I think the place that I lack the most in parenting is my presence, because I'm constantly worrying about something else and have a deadline, or this person's going to call, or I've got to get this email out, or this receipt. And this situation has forced me to be a lot more present in life in general and with anyone that I'm around. And I think carrying that through really helps you stay in that moment and helps you to put the anxiety away so you can do your silly things. And I hope to see pictures posted of you doing some fun silly stuff with your kids and getting a little messy and just kind of, it's like back to basics. We always say at Kid Time, the world is high tech, but with preschool, what they really need is low tech. And at this point, balance those extra screen hours with some silly low tech stuff that you can do with your kids, and just kind of lean in.
Well, Leah, thanks again. Your warmth and just the steady hand guidance is so calming and reassuring, and they're great, great reminders for all of us to focus on our kids and on what's most important at a time like this, and to really savor those moments, because the difficult times will pass, but I think we're going to look back and miss some of these opportunities that we had to spend more time with our kids. So thank you for reminding us. Well, this has been great. Um, you're really a leader in our community, and I thank you for that. And hope everyone enjoyed watching. And if you have any questions, reach out to Leah and look up Kid Time. So until the next time we talk, Leah, have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Thank you, Roman. You too. Enjoy.
Thank you. Be well.